G'day everyone, how you going? My name's Aura Party and I'm here again with just another healing video update of the coming changes to classes in Shadowlands. This video will be looking at the changes that are occurring for the Mistweaver Monk. Now the Mistweaver Monk is it's a class that's dear to my heart. I started playing as Mistweaver as soon as I came out in Mr. Pandaria, and I've always leveled one up every expansion and had them and played them. I find them really fun. I think they're a great class, and all the different aspects that they have and the class fantasy, I think it all works really well and it creates a really interesting class. But what we'll do today is we're going to go over the changes of the base class changes, and then we'll move down to the Mistweaver and then we'll have a discussion on that one as well. Alrighty, so the Monk class changes. So baseline abilities are now Expel Harm, Fortify Brew, Spinning Crane Kick, and Touch of Death. So the Touch of Death for the other specs other than just Windwalker will be really interesting, especially in putting out DPS and just the way in which they'll level or it'll affect the end game. Now, something that's really cool is the new Celestial. All three specializations will be able to summon their Celestial to the battlefield. So that's either Zhuen the Tiger, Nyazu, the Black Ox. I don't play Brewmaster, so I don't know. And Yulon, who is the big Jade Serpent. Alrighty, so one change that I've got here, so the leg sweep, all it's done basically is increase the yard or the radius of the kick by 1 yard from 5 to 6. So that's just maybe a little bit of a quality of life change in terms of, I guess, the area of enemies that you can stun. So another change that they have implemented is that roll only has 1 charge until you get rank 2 when you get 2 charges. So like I've said in previous videos, this is just something that Blizzard is really doing in order to flesh out the abilities and things that you get whilst you're leveling, in order so it feels, I guess, more like so every level you feel like you're getting stronger rather than being 2, 3, 4 levels between you actually getting any abilities. So the change that's come to Spinning Crane Kick is one that Blizzard has talked about with a lot of certain classes and the AoE abilities, and they're wanting to limit the amount of targets you can hit with certain AoE abilities. So you'll see here down the bottom they've added up to 6. So even if there were 10 units around you and you were to hit Spinning Crane Kick, you will only hit 6, so there'll be 4 who won't get damaged. And I think that's just a way they're moving towards really kind of slowing the DPS on large AoE pools, and maybe making it a bit more difficult. And maybe for things like Mythic Plus, they'll have the players will have to be more selective with who they target, and maybe giving a bit more importance to the single target abilities. Alrighty, so we've got Vivify here. So the base mana cost has come down 0.6%, which really isn't, well, it's not drastic, that change. Alrighty, so we've got the Mistweaver Monk specifics for the spec here. So we'll dive into this and have a look. So Invoke Yulon, so the Jade Serpent, so that is now just a baseline talent, and it's just a cooldown that we'll have. I think that's a really good choice. I think monks didn't really have many cooldowns, and when I say it's cool cooldowns like that, that are visually, spectacular or actually did too much anyway. We've had Revival, and it is extremely handy, and it does do quite good in a lot of situations. However, I remember for expansions, it's so weak in terms of a healing cooldown. For a whole raid, it's really they have nerfed the power of that. So to have another cooldown that might be effective that isn't talented, I think that's a really good change. Now we've got Touch of Death as well. So like I said before, it's just another something that we can put into our DPS rotation, help out with the DPS. Mistweavers aren't too poor in terms of their healing. In fact, they're some of the strongest healers, single targets, so they can absolutely pump out heals. However, their DPS is a bit lacking, especially when coming to high-end Mythic Plus in comparison with the Holy Paladin or in comparison with the Resto Druid, of course. Then we've got Invoke Chi-Ji. So Chi-Ji is the little crane who runs around and heals everyone. So it's a talent, but it's been reworked, they've said. So The talent strengthens the player's physical damage moderately and healing their allies for part of the damage inflicted on the enemies. GG also makes Mistweaver Monks immune to movement impairing abilities, so that they can be constantly on the move during combat. Now that's going to be very important, I think, for PvP. I'm not very PvP minded, nor do I really play it that much. However, I can imagine having a cooldown where you are unable to be hindered by movement abilities or slowing. I think that's really strong. Very much sort of like Holy Paladin's, Hand of Freedom. Alrighty, so moving into the Mistweaver Monk ability changes for Shadowlands we'll get in, and this will include a lot of the healing spells, so it's always something really good to look over. So now we've got Enveloping Mist, which is our sort of, large heal that's a 6-second hot. It's actually been changed, will reduce the mana cost to 5.2% of your base mana instead of the 6. And by the looks of it, however, as well, it's been nerfed from 258 spell power, to 237.6. So a little bit, a minor amount of mana changed in terms of the usage. However, the actual healing that it'll put out has been reduced a bit. Essence Font as itself, I mean, that's a relatively new spell, so it hasn't been changed really at all. Now, something that is good with the Expel Harm rank 2, so it can now be cast during Soothing Mist and heals the monk and their Soothing Mist target. So that can be very handy for a lot of situations, especially high tank damage, as also if you're taking damage yourself as well, top you up. As well, looking to arenas and things like that, very strong for that reason too. Alrighty, so we get our first look at Invoke Yulon, the Jade Serpent. So summons the effigy of Yulon and the Jade Serpent for 25 seconds. Yulon heals nearby enemies with his Celestial Breath for 45% of your attack power. So that'll be quite interesting to see how effective that is in terms of actual HPS, but obviously, even if I was in the beta, I wouldn't be able to tell you because the numbers change so often throughout the beta, so you can't really tell them until once we get into the game for a few weeks or so. Alrighty, Renewing Mist, which is essentially the Mistweaver's bread and butter, restoring 161% of spell power over 20 seconds. Now, the change by the looks of it so far is the cost is gone from 2.2% of your base mana to 2.5. So that's only 0.3%. I don't think that itself is going to have a drastic impact on the way in which you will play. It's still only got a 9-second recharge in of that, so it's really quite inconsequential over the long haul for what we're looking at the moment. By the looks of it, Soothing Mist has been buffed by 80% of the spell power, so it's gone from 320 to 400% of your spell power over 8 seconds. And I think that's really good. Mistweaver's sort of struggled for a while in terms with their Soothing Mist because I think it's such a fantastic idea and a great spell. But a lot of healers, if you're channeling that and you're just healing one person, you can't do anything to anyone else. While other healers are throwing out, heals all over the group. If you're using Soothing Mist on a tank or something of that, you're stuck there casting on that person. So I believe that, if you are casting Soothing Mist and you're being punished for not only channeling and having to stand there, but for 8 seconds channel into someone, I believe it should be strong enough to warrant the negative impacts that it will have on you. So I think that's a good step in that direction from Blizzard. Now, Thunder Focus T, by the looks of it, it hasn't really changed at all. At level 25, of course, you'll gain the effects for Vivify and Rising Sun Kick, but otherwise it's very much unchanged, and it is a great tool in our toolkit. Right, so looking in just the couple of talent and changes that the Mistweaver Monks got. Right, so with Rising Mist, Rising Mist was the sort of the talent that they were using, so you could do a bit of damage and heal at the same time, or in a sense sort of like your old fist weaving, but not much like it at all. Basically, it just looks like they've buffed it. Okay, so basically it looks like anyone who's affected with any of your hots throughout the fight or with this talent, and you use the Rising Sun Kick, instead of 20% of the spell power going to healing, it'll be 30 now. And extending those hots as well, which is really good. So overall, guys, it looks like the Mistweaver Monk, it's still pretty much the same. There's been some minor changes, some quality of life, like especially with that celestial talent coming in. I think though the monk class as a whole has been changed the least over all the specs throughout the alpha and moving into the beta, and where everyone's kind of been wondering if there's going to be anything more with them. I think the direction that they're going is very cool, and I think, you know, once we get into the soul binds and everything else, it'll be very interesting to see how it all works out for them. But I certainly will be leveling a Mistweaver in Shadowlands. I think, you know, they're a fantastic class. They've always been fun to play. But on that note, thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching and sticking around for this long. Remember to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Come watch me out on twitch.tv/auraparty. I stream there as much as I can, and we're looking to make a schedule as soon as possible to stick and be regular. But leave a comment if you think you liked it, if you wanted to see any other different changes, anything like that. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.